Okay. All right, so I am copying into the chat some information about closed captioning, which is available on the desktop version of Teams. And then I am also adding the agenda to the chat for everybody. Okay, so we will be monitoring the chat. Please remain muted if you're not speaking, but feel free to use the raise hand function. And Mitchell, if you'd like to start with the call to order.
Sure. Can call to order the meeting of the City of Milwaukee Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee at 8:35.
And let's do roll call. Michael Anderson.
Present.
Oh, yay. Okay. Aaron Artiega. I believe no. Anna Baliakova, currently no. Mitchell Henke.
Present.
Kathleen Minnick.
Present.
Ben Teal. No. Barry Weber.
Present.
Stephen Owen.
Here.
Monica Walksmith.
Here.
Great. Okay, and then I will hand it back over to Mitchell.
And Mitch, you believe we have a quorum now, right? With 4 of us, 4 voting members?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And since we do now, we can start with the minutes from last month or the month before.
July 18th, 2025.
And I was absent from that particular meeting, so I could motion to approve the minutes based on keeping the wheels turning here, but I'm happy to hear someone else's motion.
I'll have a motion to approve. Kathy?
Thank you, Kathy. A motion to approve from Kathy, and hearing no objections, minutes from July are approved.
Who's the second? Mitchell, I can put you down.
I don't know if that's allowed, but
Sure, I second it.
Okay.
take a second from Barry.
I take Kathy's word.
Sorry. And with that, we can move to our first item. I think Jessica is here to talk about the proposed Safe Roads, Save Lives Act and automated traffic enforcement.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Here, I
Hello
can
again.
hand this over to you if you'd like to.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Jessica Weinberg, the Vision Zero Policy Director for the City of Milwaukee. And just appreciate the time to give you guys all a brief about the traffic safety camera bill that's currently in the legislature. So from a Vision Zero perspective, we just feel that traffic safety cameras are a key tool that the state is preventing us from using. They are so effective, and you can build an equity and protections in them.
Sorry, can I steal that back to share the screen?
Yes.
So everyone can see.
But perfect, you haven't missed anything yet. So they're so effective. NHTSA did a national compilation study, and they reduce all crashes by 54% and injury causing crashes by 47%. And those numbers are just lives that we could save here in Milwaukee, and we want to have that opportunity. I'll wait a second till we're fully sharing, just so you guys can see where we're going.
I'm not sure.
I'll give actually a little background. So the city of Milwaukee has actually been advocating for a traffic safety camera bill for almost 20 years. And we've never had bipartisan co-sponsorship. in both chambers of the State House, and this year we do, and that's really a serious achievement. And there's enough co-sponsors and co-authors right now to actually get it out of committee, and it should be getting a hearing. It would be very difficult for it to pass this session. I guess I'm going right into the very exciting part, but it would be hard for it to pass this session because the State Senate is has so far only scheduled one more day in session, and numerically, the chance that this bill is one that they bring up on that one day, hard to imagine, but we feel really good about the next session. And we just want to continue to highlight that this is a tool that we need and then refine the legislation so that it meets the needs of Milwaukee. Okay. So I'll quickly, I think everyone in this room knows the problem. Speed really is killing us, and traffic safety cameras really target speed and red light running, two of the most dangerous behaviors drivers make. And they are this key part of the toolbox that we want to have access to. And then we need everybody to help change this law and allow the 5-year pilot to move forward. You guys know this, but I think it's worth maybe just thinking about the real people that are, we can always take a minute to think about the real people who are affected by traffic violence. This picture is actually really hard for me to look at right now because Delisha, who's standing there in the hat, all these people were touched by traffic violence. Delisha and her sister were both hit by a speeding drunk driver. Her sister was killed. Delisha survived, only to be killed by a gunshot wound a couple weeks ago. And if anybody was, there's a memorial and a vigil for her and her sister Sunday at 5 o'clock at 76th, the Good Hope, if anybody wants to go. But these are, the real people who are deeply impacted by our current situation. Okay, sorry, let's move forward. So we do have a solution, and I just want to highlight that, while right now I'm talking to you about traffic safety cameras, these are embedded within a much broader safe systems approach that's really outlined in our Vision Zero plan. Thank you to everyone who participated in public comments and gave ideas and, for years was contributing to plans whose recommendations have also moved forward into this plan. Number 7, champion state law changes is one of our key actions. And down at the bottom is where we have that we need to change the state law to clarify that owner's liability does exist and is a legal way to issue tickets. That's the real legal need that we have with this bill. But just a reminder, we are doing all of those other 6 actions every day as well. This is not our silver bullet or our only option. So again, these really work, and Wisconsin is an island. Everybody around us now has either speed safety cameras or red light cameras. Even Iowa recently adopted them, and they're popular in blue states, red states. It's really a bipartisan issue and just a good safety tool at this point. So a little more about the actual bill. This is a bill that would allow cities of the first class to have a 5-year traffic safety camera pilot program. Currently, Milwaukee is the only city of the first class. Our goal with this is safety. It's not revenue generation. It's really getting people to change behavior. And the state outlines some broad requirements for this program, and then it's really enabling legislation that enables the city of Milwaukee to develop a detailed program with community input. So the state enables and has some guardrails, and then we would be able to develop the details. And I really think that's the perfect, that broad arc of this bill is exactly what we want. We do not want the state telling us exactly how to run every bit of this program because they are far from the problems that we have. But it's good that we have some guardrails to make sure equity and behavior change is the focus. So details about the act. Currently as written, only drivers traveling 15 miles an hour or faster, 50 miles an hour over the speed limit or faster, or running a red light would be cited. The locations for the cameras would be based on crash data and community input. There's a cap of 75 locations for cameras and a sub-allocation of a maximum of 5 per aldermanic district. And then on this, like the goal is behavior change. Some key elements are that there would be a 30-day public awareness media campaign before any citations could be launched. Plus, for every location that goes live, 90 days of warnings only from that location to, again, really highlight, we want you to change, we're giving you a warning, we want you to change your behavior. Our first goal is not the money, please change. The money is a tool to get you to change, but hopefully just the warning can do that as well. The fines are range from $20 to $100 based on the statute. And again, at the local level, we would kind of decide, we could say your first one is 20, we could say your 10th is 100, we could say your second is 100. It could be based on how fast over the speed limit you're going that the fines go up. Again, that would be like a community decision. Because this is all about owner's liability, which means it's like a parking ticket. The legal framework for these tickets is really like a parking ticket. When you get a parking ticket, your license plate and that vehicle in that spot just gets the ticket. The parking checkers do not have to figure out who is driving and make sure that that driver is assessed the ticket. And that's the same thing with these red light and speeding programs, that we clarify the law that just this vehicle is responsible for this and the registered owner is responsible for this ticket. And so because of that, the photos are only of the license plate. So this is a positive privacy concern, that we're not taking photos of drivers or people in the car. It's the license plate. The citation goes to the registered owner. Most programs, and this would be what we I think would develop locally, have a online affidavit where if you are not driving, you can nominate through the affidavit the person who was driving. So say my child was borrowing my car, he drove through a red light. I can either just pay the ticket and then have him pay me or not, however that works. He could do chores, work it off, or I can actually go on and say, I'm putting him in the system. Everett, you ran this red light. You are gonna, have this lesson and learn how to deal with this. Normally, you can only transfer that liability online one time. If my son tries to say, oh no, I had a friend drive your car when that was happening, that friend or Everett would have to go to a judge for a hearing and explain that, and the judge could decide, what to do. But you can pass it along one time online in a very simple process. There's good privacy and civil liberties protections, a lot of mandated reporting to the state, data security measures, bans on facial recognition. I really want to highlight that this is just really about taking photos of license plates and having the registered owner be liable. Nothing to do with seeing who's in the car or facial recognition. And then proceeds from this program would initially cover program costs, the cameras, the administration, but any excess revenues above that would be for traffic safety improvements, traffic law enforcement, infrastructure, and traffic safety programs. So really trying to invest the money into prevention so that over time, the program could even, go away. Do people have questions on the details of the bill? I have one more page that kind of.
Hi, Jessica, question. And it's, probably a moot point, but someone runs a light and then there's no plate.
Yeah.
Milwaukee problem, as we know.
Yeah. So by making speeding and red light running in general less of a police-driven citation issue and freeing up their time from that, I think they could focus on license plates more. And with this program, there would be, I think, community support and push to really encourage the police to crack down on people without registrations.
Okay.
That otherwise currently is a bit of a loophole,
Sure.
but the legal framework is there for that to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a matter of some police energy. And I do think if there's less pressure on them doing speeding, general traffic enforcement, they can go to red light cameras. The other thing, or they can go to license plates. The other thing is the cameras would help tell us where are the most cars without plates, and then the police could target their enforcement time on this issue. Sure. And really be in the locations that need it the most.
Mitchell has a hand raised.
Yeah, I was curious on the revenue going, who decides where it goes beyond covering the cost of the program? Like,
That
is that up to the city?
Yeah, that would be decided in our own, the city community-driven process would determine what that is.
It'd be like any other budget. The Common Council would say we have whatever, this amount of dollars with these strings attached, and we will decide where it goes.
Or there could be a
Okay.
committee that's formed that, either is advisory or binding that makes decisions. It could be kind of a grant program. There's a lot of ways it could be run.
Can I just add to that though? There's really, the way the money moves, there's not a good way to earmark it. It's not like that money is going to come in and go into a separate fund that we can use for stuff.
It actually is required to though legally.
Are you sure? Because it's got to come in through the city's general fund. I mean, if it's a revenue from a citation revenue, we receive it and it goes into our general fund. Then it gets allocated in different ways, but it's not like there's a separate account for like municipal citation stuff. Does that make sense?
That makes sense currently, but the law does say that there will be.
And I'll be interested to see how that works.
Yeah.
Because even like
Parking citations going to the transportation fund?
yeah, but it's still a
Not
general,
directly.
it's a general pot of money. It's not directed. And that's the way most of our revenues work, even like the motor vehicle registration fee. Our ordinance says that we have to use 10% of it for maintenance and it shall be used for these purposes. But it's a general purpose revenue that comes in, into the general fund, and then the mayor allocates it. And you can look at our budget and say, oh yes, we have spent this much on maintenance and that equals that, but it's not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
So I'm not
It's-
quite sure exactly that there would be a pot of money that a committee could spend. Just
Yeah.
whatever that's worth. I mean, you might want to just double check with the budget office and see how that revenue piece might work there.
Yeah. Our intergovernmental relations staff has been like they're the ones who have gotten all the success at the State House with co-sponsors. And they have a lot of experience here, and I would think they understand the budget process and the budget implications of anything they are pushing through, but
Yeah,
I
it's
do not
interesting.
understand the details.
So because
Yeah.
like, even like when departments, when they do programs that, revenue comes in, that revenue doesn't necessarily, even if it's directly related to something the department is doing, that revenue doesn't go back as a reimbursable to the department, So, I mean, and that's been you can say that it's a flaw of our system, it's a feature, it's the way it works. I mean, and so to a certain extent, departments are disincentivized from like finding stuff they can do that will generate revenue because it doesn't necessarily come back to their department. It might get allocated somewhere else. So yeah, I would double check and
Double check with the budget office.
yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that if we get the revenue, we will spend it on what they're saying, but I don't know that it's going to be quite as direct as that made it sound. Just whatever.
slightly more fungible, perhaps, but at the end of the day, it's the city's revenue. There may be strings attached based on what's in the law ultimately, but the state isn't saying any revenue beyond the cost of operating the program must go towards XYZ. The city determines that.
Right within the realm of traffic.
Within the bounds of whatever's specified in the statute. Ultimately.
I did have one other question though. You said that this only applies to cities of the first class, which Milwaukee is the only one. I mean, is there a reason why it's going that route? Is that the only way that we can get this through? Or because I mean, it seems like Madison, some of the other larger cities could benefit from something like this. I mean, do you know what the logic behind that was?
Yes, so far, many of our like upstate Republican co-sponsors, why they're interested in co-sponsoring or co-authoring is that it is definitely not for their community and they don't think that they need it in their smaller places.
Mhm.
It is up to Green Bay, Madison, La Crosse, Eau Claire, and their representatives to see if they would want to change the bill to add their class of city.
It just seems like an odd sort of thing because it doesn't require you to do it. It's permissive. So
It's just
they
permissive.
could do it if they wanted to. So what's the harm in letting everybody do it if they want to?
I mean, we're just,
Well, yeah, I mean, I get it.
yeah.
I just was curious why, if that was it, if this is the only way to get it through, then yeah, you start with us.
This is the only way to get it through currently, although there are 2 other statewide traffic safety camera bills with more narrow use that are circulating in the State House. And that is, I think, really demonstrative of like the change in how these programs are viewed. It was really previously viewed as either a cash grab, putting police out of work, or a huge like privacy breach. And I think many of us now see the other side. It's a needed safety tool. We've lost all our privacy anyways, and this is only going to make license plates.
It's like, the privacy issue is still a thing. That's a real thing.
It's still a thing, but
There's a block camera right behind it.
right. Oh, and there's a tracking device in your pocket that you're allowing to do lots of things. So the other two statewide bills are one for school bus stop arm violations. You know, that is definitely more of a rural issue, but they're interested in having cameras that would issue tickets to people who go around when there's the stop arm out, and in work zones. And so those might be two cases that are more applicable and there's more appetite for across the state, and that's great. But with the city as the lead, we can get more support by saying it's only for us. And hopefully we run a great program. We do all this mandated reporting, and then if the program runs well, there is more interest in other communities and they could, easily expand it. Our program, this is only for a 5-year pilot, and we would need legislative action to extend beyond those 5 years.
Jessica, you had mentioned, earlier resistance because it's been such a long time coming. Have any of the groups and such who have previously voiced opposition, have they come on board or announced any support? Softened at least?
Yeah. So it's been so long that I, wasn't part of this argument so much 20 years ago to know exactly who's against it. I will say, we haven't heard any outright of opposition from police or law enforcement groups, and I think that's a big win. You can look online and see who's registered in support or against the bill, and there's one law enforcement related statewide group who's just registered like neutral. They have some questions, and I think that's actually a really big win that none of them have been against it. Individually, when I talk to police officers or sheriffs, they want this tool. They're like, this is just efficient. I actually talked to a sheriff from Sheboygan who said, my young sheriffs want this so much, they're annoyed that they have to go out and do this old-fashioned ticket writing. They're like, this is so inefficient. What a waste of my time. Why don't we have cameras do this so I can do other work? So I think the culture within policing is kind of changing, and a lot of lessons were learned from the early programs that kind of were put out all of a sudden, kind of felt like a gotcha, were sprung on communities. And we've learned no, let's design it where this is a much different sort of program where behavior change is the goal, and that safety outcome, not revenue.
You would think that the police officers would, or that police in general would be supportive of this, if for no other reason than it removes the hazard of a police officer having to stop somebody. I mean, traffic stops are one of the most dangerous aspects of their jobs. So if they can do that automatically, they don't actually have to confront someone in a vehicle. You'd think that they'd be all about it.
And I will say, Chief Norman is supportive of this bill, and probably the chief 20 years ago wasn't, but I don't know that for sure. But Chief Norman is supportive, and AAA is supportive. AARP, the Bike Fed is registered in support. I think something like AARP is that's a real change from 20 years ago, probably, but they have really embraced active living and aging in place and realized pedestrian safety is so important for older adults as well. So that's pretty impressive. And then I think I kind of skipped the supported by the public. I just want to make sure people saw this, that AAA did a poll 2 years ago, and they're actually currently doing one, and it'll be interesting to see the results. But 60% of Wisconsinites all across the state support red light cameras. And within the Vision Zero survey, 62% of Milwaukeeans supported traffic safety cameras. And that was that was just a cold question on our survey. There was no paragraph about how these programs are better than they used to be, how we're going to do prevention, how there's going to be a warning period. And even just, without any details, 62% said they supported. So this is a well-supported issue, and we're hoping it can pass. Sorry, I should jump to the call to action.
Real quick, Kathleen Minnick also raised her hand.
Hi, I really like hearing about this, and I personally am supportive of it. I'm just wondering if there's anything in particular you might need from us. It's nice to learn about it. Is there anything you need us to to do if we're all, if we support that?
Yes, wonderful. That is the perfect transition question. So yes, you can contact your legislators, and I can send an email to Marissa that has the links and the bill numbers and a template letter if people are interested. So we'll make it very easy for you to take these actions in a follow-up email, but contacting your legislators, either thanking them if they are co-sponsors or asking them to support it. And then there will be a public hearing, and we do not get to know the date with much advance warning, and we don't know when it's going to be, but we have been able to get the state Senate to agree to hosting the hearing in Milwaukee on the bill. So that's a really big win. And I really encourage people to consider testifying. You can either do that in person or you can submit written testimony, and the email I'll send will have those details as well. Although again, we don't know when it's happening. We're thinking it's going to be early to mid-October, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, in early to mid-October. And then if you are part of an organization or that has a lobbyist or a principal, you can register in support of the bill. We really appreciate that. And then if you're part of any other groups or organizations, please share this information with them, or you're welcome to, I'd be happy to come and do a presentation similar to this, 5 minutes, a whole hour, any length of time you want to share to talk to people about this. The draft, Senator Dora Drake was the original drafter of this round of the legislation, and she really took into account like all the past concerns that people had. And so I'm very happy to kind of talk about, there were these real concerns about these sorts of programs. We think we've embedded a solution into the program design. And if not, this is still a circulating bill and it can change. I'm kind of surprised so far no one has said, why is it 15 miles an hour and up? That seems high. And maybe with community support saying we want 10 miles an hour and up would be a more appropriate limit, that could change.
I mean, I know
getting
that
something passed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, I think for a lot of us, we're just so worn down by no action. And even when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, sure. If it's
Right.
like anything, please,
Yeah, that is how we all feel.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we can amend that later.
And we can talk about it later, right?
Not going to die on that hill. Yeah.
If 15 is what makes everybody in Milwaukee think it's a good idea, how can you be opposed to saying you should get a ticket if you're going 15 over? There is some real value in that. And then over time, hopefully through legislative action, we could bring it down. No programs right now go below 4, and 10 is kind of a common standard. Some do 6.
It could be 15 and then we'll just lower the speed limits.
Yeah, also that. And in an ideal world, I do think that it would be a percentage over the speed limit, because 15 in a school zone is going double the speed limit almost, and 15 when it's 45 is like, if it's a limited access highway, it's not as big of a deal. It's very different. But I think that is difficult to communicate to the public. And there's something very helpful about just having this one message: 15 and over, you will get a citation, go slow. These are proven that people just go slow everywhere, speed slow everywhere, because it's too hard to pay attention to exactly where the cameras are, even though they would be signed.
That does raise a question. Are there restrictions on what streets it could be put on? Like, does it have to be city jurisdiction? Presumably not the freeways, but we wouldn't put waste in there anyway.
Right. So I'm trying to think of what exactly the language is in the statute, but it is streets within the city's jurisdiction, which is, I think, the best language because it's the broadest. So that would mean like state trunk highways, county-owned roads technically could be part of this. And we've gotten comments from the state. The state DOT has reviewed this. They did not seem to have problems, except to say if we wanted to put cameras on their roadways, we couldn't use their posts, their poles and posts. We'd have to put up our own. And then they had a comment about, if you only take rear license, do you want to also maybe take front license plate photos? Currently, it's only rear, because when there's a tractor trailer, the person who owns the trailer is not the operator, and it's just one more. And we're like, no, it's owner's liability. They have to figure that out. They have the paperwork to know who was actually driving this truck at that time and to figure out where the citation goes. But I was impressed that that was DOT's main comment was,
Yeah,
you can't use
So
our
that
posts
would
and that.
that would allow like the city to put it up on, say, Fond du Lac or similar state highways in the city.
Right.
In theory.
I mean, there would be local approval since it is their space, but yes, this bill does not prohibit us working with the state to try to put these up on the high injury network, right, which includes many state roads.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but they would have to actually permit us to do it too. So, it's not a blanket, yes, but the path is there.
I mean, same with how they get rebuilt or whatever. The state's part of it. They have to approve things. Like it's still their road in some sense. But I'm glad that it doesn't outright prohibit it.
Yeah. And then these cameras are just like very like you can change things and make it, I don't know, very reflective of community needs. So even if there's like a snowstorm or an ice storm and everybody's slipping through intersections, you just can say no one's getting a ticket for these 24 hours.
The way is open, sorry.
Yeah, or like maybe there's evacuation orders, there's a tornado or something, like, and maybe that you don't want people, I don't know, it's the middle of the night and you just want people to get to go through. There's all these sorts of things, including like funerals, safe emergency response vehicles with their lights on, they would not get citations. So it really, I don't think it'll be a burden and people should not get erroneous tickets. A human actually has to look at each citation before it goes out.
A human in the police department, I assume.
Yes. But not necessarily a sworn officer, but yeah.
Sure. I guess, I mean, I would say overall, it's like, as far as speeding goes, this is relatively lenient, right? Obviously better than nothing, but 15 is a lot. 90-day warning period too.
Yeah, I mean, I do,
Yeah.
we've gone infinite days without it. Or, I
Yes.
don't know, like, so 90 more days to make sure everybody feels that it's a good idea, like I'm okay with.
Yeah,
Yes,
totally.
when people are killed, if people are killed during those 90 days, will we be really frustrated? Yes. But I think in the long term, it's a good way to do it.
Totally. I guess what I'm saying is like, I hope that this is sufficient to get passed because I don't like, you'd have to be, I don't know, driving extremely recklessly to be over 15 on most city streets. And you've had warning for 90 days. Like, I don't know. I hope this is enough to get it through.
Right, we want this to seem common sense to people who are less concerned about traffic safety than us. And I think that this bill does do that so that we can have like majority support both in the State House at the next session and internally within our own community. I think the two biggest questions are kind of at what threshold do we issue citations, 15. And then we haven't really talked about just the range of the citations, but actually 20 to 100 is on the lower side nationally. And I think because of the poverty levels in our city, I think that is a good thing. But that's something that would be interesting to talk about, as we're developing the community program.
Is it a different amount than what would be issued from like a police officer in person?
I don't know. I think it's the same.
I don't know. I think that $20 for a 15 mile and over limit, that sounds pretty. I mean, if you got pulled over and you were doing 15 over, your fine would definitely be more than $20.
So I should look at this.
I don't know what they are, but I know it's not 20.
Yeah. One thing is these citations are municipal citations. So it's like a different rubric than a moving violation. Again, because we cannot prove which driver did it. It's not a moving violation. There's no points. And so because of that, it is in a little bit of a different scheme. So it might then be cheaper.
But if you were trying to compare, if we don't do this, the alternative is to have a police officer pull you over, and then it is a moving violation. It is points. It is a whole lot more money. That seems like a selling point.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is we all think this is great generally, and we don't love 50 miles per hour over. So I think maybe we can, either we can like just say we formally endorse this as a body, and maybe also individually I'll contact our reps. Or do we want to like write a letter and say we love it and please make it 10 miles an hour over? Like which,
And I wanted to ask about that too, going off Anna. So like Kathy, like let us know if this is inappropriate or not with the rules, but a motion for preemptive action of even just using the current language, but to have a letter that we already agree on that's not currently written, but will, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it would absolutely be appropriate to put a letter to the council, you know, or I mean, to the state reps or whatever. And
At the hearing, ideally.
at the hearing, and I think it would be appropriate to say that you're supportive of it. And I would, if it was me, if I was drafting this letter, I would not say, we really want 10. I would say something more along the lines of, you know, we look forward to trying this out and seeing what improvements or what changes, you know.
Yeah, let's just
To
oh my
keep
God.
it sort of vague, you know, that, you know, recognizing that there could be some room for improvement, but not, you know, you don't want to throw a monkey wrench in it by demanding stuff that has already been argued about and agreed over, and, you know. But that's just, I mean, that's what I would do if I was drafting a letter.
I'm happy to draft it if everyone's okay with that. But motion, is that okay for a motion for a unanimous letter of support? And of course, this would be sent to group members.
Yeah, I would hear a motion to
And
draft
Can
an
I-
approval letter. Go ahead.
I do think you guys could leave, I think you can positively phrase the suggestion of 10 miles an hour. This bill's actually, you know, it's just circulating. This is the time to get edits and changes, amendments. That's what I'm supposed to use. This is the time to get amendments. So I think, you know, I wouldn't withhold support for waiting for the 10, but I would support and kindly request consideration of 10 in your letter if that's reflective of the thoughts of this group. Because there's enough support that we can do that. So that's good thoughtfulness.
Michael Anderson, do you have a comment?
Yeah, Jessica kind of touched on it. What's one thing getting it passed and building the support, but then the second goal, especially with Vision Zero, is not normalizing even 5 miles an hour over, knowing how much crash risk and fatalities increase at that level. So I was going to ask, so I love Jessica's suggestion for the letter. But I was going to ask, if it passes at 15, what does the process look like to change that? Is that something that's written in where the city, like, we can make that determination, or do we have to go back to the State House?
We would have to go back to the State House.
Okay. All right. Well, in that vein, I would support kind of writing in both 10, 15.
Would
Sorry, I have a question. Is the 15 miles per hour like 15 miles per hour or over? Like the city could decide that 20 is the amount that they want?
Yes, that is technically true.
Okay, so if they did do 10, we could do 15 or 20 or whatever. Like,
Right.
I'm thinking of what Michael just said though too, and like all the input here. I can try to word this letter in a way where it's a little more general of, like, here's one of our points that we're really appreciative of the speeding as well. So maybe it's a little more, we make the point that any speeding is something that's an issue, but like.
we can say vaguely, like, please consider a lower threshold.
Yeah. Or
The other point is this is only a municipal ticket. Go ahead, sorry.
Michael.
Go ahead.
The other point is if points aren't being deducted for this and it's only a municipal ticket, then and these fines are lower, but the threshold is lower, you're issuing more tickets at like a $20 to $25 range and bringing in more revenue that way as well.
And I would also just kind of note, like, as a teacher, I work, as soon as I'm done here, I will be supervising 2 hours of different recesses, and especially a lot with, kids and adults can be very similar, right? But for people who get, even if it seems like a slap on the wrist, if you get kids who get a 2-minute break from basketball because they can't play with good sportsmanship, like sometimes some kids need a few more 2-minute breaks, but eventually they get the message. I'm kind of, maybe that's a little bit of a digression, but the idea of not this devastating ticket, but maybe a couple letters in the mail with, here's your $20, enough to make your parents kind of mad at you too, if it's, assuming it's a kid speeding through.
I heard a national
Yeah,
crime.
I think the psychology of there is key.
Yeah, I heard a national crime researcher talking about how excessive punishments don't really change behavior, but the sense that you will get caught and there will be a punishment is much more of a behavior change force than there's a terrible punishment, years in the future, and only maybe will you get caught. So something like automated enforcement, like, really is the way our brains kind of work, of like, oh, even that $20 ouch, but you're going to get it, really changes what you do. And I thought that was interesting.
Wherever you have that, if you could send that to me, that would be great.
Yeah, it was actually in a different context, and I think he's talking about.
But still to pass on to people. Yeah.
I'll try to find it.
So can I just ask, if these are municipal violations, and so let's say you get a violation and you don't pay it, you get multiple violations. Is this going to be one of those violations that will lead to someone losing their driving privileges?
No.
Because we do that. There's, you can be cited for multiple, if you get enough loitering tickets, when, even before you have your driver's license, you can have your driving privileges revoked. It's not your license because you don't have one. Is this one of those that would qualify? Would this be an offense that would qualify for that track?
It could be. So we would have to work that out.
Okay.
That would be our own kind of local decision. Since that's the way we handle all municipal tickets, currently those could fall into that scheme, or we could carve out something different.
Because that might be an unintended consequence. You might have this whole, and maybe I'm just cynical, but I suspect a lot of people aren't going to pay the citations. Well, they're going to get the citation. I don't know how many of them it's a huge problem just with all of our citations. The payment rate is actually pretty low. So you could end up sweeping up a whole bunch of owners of vehicles that we didn't intend. And just a thought to kind of sort of for the future to kind of be aware of that.
Yeah, I believe we've stopped referring municipal ticket violators for revocations and suspensions. Okay. It's kind of a quiet policy, but actually under Barrett, we decided we don't want to be a debtor's. Well, you don't go to jail for it. That's not a debtor's prison, but then part of it was we don't want to get people caught up in. Right. So we have that ability, but we do not use it.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what the status of. I know there's been a lot of discussion about it and whether it's fair or not or whatever, but just. It occurs to me that this is a whole group of municipal violations that could funnel people into that lane.
Although we are relatively progressive, you have to be a bad violator, and we're not even referring right now. But it's there, so we need to. I should look into that more. Yeah, I'm not supposed to recommend people. Sorry.
I'm a 40-year educator in Milwaukee Public Schools. I have a couple of suggestions. And many of my years of teaching high school health, prevention. I think that will go hand in hand with this. How Jessica and I will work with you on how to decide, get all this information on the toolkits packages to the correct influencers in the schools and the recreation departments. That's absolutely key. These kids need to be a part of hearing why and have those discussions. I think in terms of students who repeat behaviors we don't want, a lot of times just by getting multiple tickets, a parent sees that now actually going to take place with a lot of teenagers because the parents are seeing tickets add up, and there's going to be a discussion. That's the beauty of this. We can never, as a teacher, I can't tell you how I'm influencing my kids. Before I've seen reactions as they grow up as adults, and I see them on the street and meeting that places are start teaching their kids, and I get that feedback. This is what you're setting up. This is really great. But let's make sure that prevention and education is the key component as you go on. Is the auto insurance industry involved with this? teachers, driver's education, student health classes, student government programs, the parents at the schools, the principal, the parent coordinator, recreation centers, PTAs, neighborhood associations, senior centers. These are all places that are influencers on this kind of stuff, and they all have very strong opinions on all of this. These people work with young people who drive this way.
So yeah, if you want to connect me to any of those groups, I'm happy to do presentations.
Yeah.
I have some auto industry contacts, but I haven't reached out to them previously, and I can. And thank you for passing the packet along to anyone.
I think that's a great note, and that actually kind of addresses the two last comments of a potential alternative to have those tickets waived by attending a class, which is, something that's been discussed in Vision Zero.
I'm personally happy to commit to offering a traffic safety class that could be something that people can attend in lieu of the fine. Again, the community would have to agree to that as we're developing our process and the common council.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that's a good equity impact. And we could use the funds to have, make sure driver's ed remains free, or, any strategic idea that we have for prevention could possibly, be funded with the revenues. So that's not where we want to focus, but I think it's actually really inspiring that we could.
So on that line, peer education is the top. And I would recommend with your funding in the future, I've done peer education with chemical dependency and addiction, and it's excellent. And if it's done right, those youth can go back into the younger classes. And now you start the learning journey at a younger age and more serious with peers.
Can I jump in? I think I would like to move forward on the motion.
Actually, can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you identified a council member? Like, suppose this passes, are you working with the council at all to find a sponsor? Because once this passes, we still have to enshrine it in our ordinances and create the program. And
Yeah, we, so support of this bill is in the lobbying packet that the common council votes for. So they've said that this is something they want us to pursue for 20 years in a row, actually. So right now we are focusing on the state legislature, and we are not seeking individual sponsors yet, but we think that there's strong support. And that'll be a next step. And then the other thing is the 5-year clock starts when we actually get turn one camera on. It does not start when the bill passes, because we want to have enough time to do our local community process, political process to develop the program.
Quick comment from Becky in the chat, Becky Rabatin, and maybe the classes could include individuals who have been impacted by crashes.
Yeah. And we could have money to pay them to be there and not just ask them to be volunteers.
With that, are there any other questions or comments from committee members?
I mean, just not to drag this on, but even a few months ago, we were talking about this and through email chats and just whatnot. And there was even then this sense of don't even pursue this. This is dead in the water in the state. It always has been. I mean, I'm not an expert on so much with state politics, but I knew enough there. And I just, oh my gosh, this is just so exciting is not even the word, it's just so I'm moved by this, that this is actually happening, and the care in the compromise and how this is all being drafted to kind of reflect the concerns of so many people in the city and the state is just something really to behold. So just want to say that.
It's thanks to everyone's long advocacy about these issues that we're here. It's really fantastic. So everyone should feel really proud.
Yeah, sincerely been a long time coming. I guess hearing what has all been said, I would motion that we draft a letter with unambiguous support to the state for passing this, with potential to softly recommend reducing the speed limit to 10 miles over, though the state or the city could still decide to do 15, if I understand right. If
Mitch,
that's, yeah, go ahead.
Mitch, would you be up for a motion, what you just said, but with how Anna had kind of mentioned, like something with like considering a lower threshold, we're not necessarily 10 miles an hour, but just like we leave it a
Yeah.
little more open.
Totally. I think,
Ambiguous.
yeah, Anna, if you want to,
9
Say
miles an
anything.
hour is still ridiculous too. Anyway.
did you want to say anything, Anna? Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, no, we were just saying, yeah, lower thresholds, right? We were wish casting lower and lower thresholds. That's all that was happening at the conference table.
So I guess summarize a motion from us to write a letter in support of these bills in the state legislature with encouragement to consider reducing the maximum speed limit from what it's currently proposed as. Does that capture it?
Yeah,
So are you saying you want a motion right now to do that, or you mean once the letter is?
No, let's preemptively motion it. Like, let's do it and like,
Yeah,
ship it off.
I think I would like to motion it now. Barry's volunteered to draft and we can all take a look after.
Yeah,
And once it looks good.
Okay. Was that a motion? Then I seconded if.
I guess,
that
yeah, I
what you're
forget if
saying?
I'm allowed to motion.
Oh, or I'll do the motion, a motion to approve it.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, Michael.
second.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Barry will draft a letter in the next couple of weeks. Does that sound fair, Barry?
Yeah, there was part of me that wanted to be like, actually, no, I object. I changed my mind. But that was just a joke, you know.
Can we move
I don't sit at this big table very often. What's up?
Could we move that you have to write the letter?
Yeah, I'll write it. Yeah, I don't mind writing letters.
Cool. I think with that, unless there are any final questions or comments,
Just
thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Jessica, Becky added a little bit more detail about a comparison of a spinal cord injury support group. So,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, back to pitch.
I will have something to you all within the next week.
Cool.
Mhm. Oh, just while we're at this, where would that just be sent to the current?
I'll send you that. It's actually kind of.
Yeah, let's
Annoying.
connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to like address it to like people who are currently in support or different committees, whatever.
Yeah. I'll send those templates to Marissa and.
Great.
Because individual letters are welcome too, but this will be the official.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Ellen. Thank you, Jessica. It's really exciting to hear that this is moving forward finally.
Wow.
No, thank you all. That's great.
All right. So the next item on our agenda is discussion on electronic billboards, which is something we've been talking about for a bit. And I think Kathy has been doing, has done research on that.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, I have.
If anyone who's in this room who needs a printed copy, the committee I have here with some of mine.
I brought a few copies.
Oh, heck yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Do you want to, Barry, you've been kind of leading this. Did you want to take it away?
What's that, Mitch?
You've been kind of leading this. Did you want to handle this item?
I mean, I can turn it over to Kathy right away. Wow, there's even this beautiful PowerPoint presentation that's up there. But
It's just to keep me from like rambling on stupidly. It's like, just read the memo.
I thought that's what these meetings were about. I mean, I will just say that this is something that is, we all have our kind of projects, right? This is something that's near and dear to my heart. Like a lot of everybody here, we go down the trails, you know, not only for utilitarian purposes, but also to unwind. That's like me, how do I get away from things? And I've just noticed certainly the proliferation of more and more billboards, especially electronic types, including ones off our trails, not only in the city, but beyond. And so there was a request for research several months ago for Kathy on just what are our current existing laws, what are other municipalities that, you know, have any kind of legislation, regulation. And this is also, Kathy could probably say much better than me. So I guess we'll turn over to Kathy.
Yeah, I got the request, and basically it was just to see, you know, if the city had any regulations or if other municipalities have regulations, or, you know, just kind of look into it and see what was going on here. Let me just, there we go. So yeah, so I kind of did some research. I looked into what regulatory trends there might be nationwide, if there are any advocacy or industry, you know, if there's any information about it. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I've been messing with the
Yeah, no,
sharing. It's just not working.
That's fine. Just seeing if there are advocacy groups that are working on this, or if I could find any piercing examples. I looked at what the challenges might be, then I reviewed the city code provisions to see if we do anything on this matter. And the good news is that we actually do, the city code has a separate section for automatic message changing signs. That's like our official designation. And I always have trouble saying that, so I'm just going to call them LED billboards, but that's not what we use in our code. So kind of a spoiler alert, we don't regulate them near greenways, but because we do have like a separate code section, we won't be recreating the wheel. If the committee did want to move forward with some recommended changes, it would be more of a tweak to our existing legislation. So that's kind of what they did. When I look,
are these like typically zoning things for billboards? That
actually,
restricts.
they kind of come, they're in a couple of different places, and I'll get to where they are in the city code. But first, what I did was I kind of looked at the broad categories of things that municipalities are regulating, or that groups are suggesting that we regulate. And they kind of focus around illumination limits, proximity restrictions, aesthetic standards, and safety standards. Because when I looked around, like I didn't find any municipalities that regulated them super specifically on all of these things. It's sort of it looks as though a lot of municipalities sort of picked, you know, maybe they were having problems with lighting, or maybe some people thought they were ugly. So I didn't find a lot of real comprehensive stuff, but so these are where the most of the regulations come in. And when you're looking at illumination limits, the most common restrictions that I found were brightness caps, and they kind of run the gamut. I was surprised at how low some of them were and also how high some of them were. Sort of like, your limit is so high, why did you even bother writing that down, kind of thing. But so the general range is between 250 and 350 nits. And honestly, I don't know how bright that is. But that's the unit that they use to measure. A lot of places require the use of automatic dimming technology. And what that does is it makes the sign respond to ambient light. So it's not just at night, but like if there's a storm or whatever, it reacts automatically. And a lot of places require directional light to reduce spill. Wherever you're lighted, your billboards, you don't want it shining on people's houses or whatever. And so that kind of would fit into, we could increase regulations to prevent spill onto bike trails and things like that. For proximity restrictions, what I found was establishing minimum setbacks from greenways or bike trails. Some municipalities actually prohibit billboards entirely. Sometimes it's just within park boundaries, but some of them in the entire municipal borders. I want to say, is it Utah? Like the entire state, they just outlawed billboards. I might have to state wrong, but I know there's one state that just.
They recently did that?
Nope. I'd have to go back and look.
Because last I heard, the state of Vermont and the state of Maine have always even this is before digital billboards.
Yeah, it way predates digital billboards. So there is a growing appetite for or recognition of just how intrusive billboards advertising of all varieties can be. Some, instead of doing it by like a greenway or bike, looking at scenic or historic corridors, like along, like the Mississippi roadway, whatever, I forget what that's called, but limiting stuff, something like that. I don't know that we have anything here in Milwaukee that would be applicable to that. But then also establishing minimum distances between billboards so that you're not seeing billboard after billboard after billboard. And let's see, what's that one that I can read up there? Oh, establishing concentration limits. Sorry, I can make that go away, can't I?
Just hit hide.
Hide. There we go. Concentration limits, so that, limiting the number of billboards within a certain area. It would be kind of similar to like the alcohol concentration limits that we have for our licensing. For aesthetic standards, there's actually a lot of places regulate the kind of colors and styles and things that you have to have it, make it look, you need to make it blend. There's limits on how big it can be. And then restrictions, there's a lot of restrictions on flashing and animated elements. The good news for Milwaukee along the aesthetic stand, along this line, is that DCD actually has done a lot of work regarding aesthetic standards for like on the Riverwalk and landscaping around parking lots. So it's already part of like what DCD does. When you look at our comprehensive plans and things, there's a lot more attention to what things look like, what the built environment is. So it seems like that wouldn't be a super hard sell if we wanted to add some standards like that. And then the last one was safety standards. I mean, these are pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of limits on animated or rapidly flashing content, the prohibition of flashing, blinking, or video light displays, and those are kind of related, but there is a little bit of difference between a billboard that just flashes from one message to another, kind of on rotation, and lights that blink or that kind of thing. The enforcement of clear sight lines is considered best practice, and then requirements to keep signage from interfering with pedestrian and bicycle traffic flow. Again, the safety standards to me are kind of common sense, but that's what people are doing. In terms of advocacy resources, I found a ton of organizations that are really doing a lot of work in this space. There's a whole list of them in the reports and, kind of what their positions are. But just kind of highlighting a couple of them, Scenic America and the International Dark Sky Association. They are looking for strict limitations on light pollution to protect natural spaces. That's they're coming at it from that direction. NACTO and the American Planning Association, they're looking at safety and aesthetics. And I know the city's a member of NACTO, so we have access to all of their guidance, all of their guidelines, that sort of thing. The Bike Fed and the American Bicycle Association, they're more safety focused and minimizing distractions. That's kind of what their space is. But again, there are a ton of organizations that out there with model legislation and looking at best practices. So if we were to, if we did want to make some changes.
For everything we built today.
I also looked at the advertising industry, and two of their biggest associations are supportive of some restrictions. They're trying to balance the rights and the interests of their members, which is to get advertising revenue. And so the more signs, the bigger signs, the brighter, that means more revenue for them. So that's really kind of what they're coming at. But even their official position is that, yeah, we probably should be better neighbors because otherwise they're going to take it away from us. So both of those organizations have a number of best practices and guidelines that they are putting out to their members. There are some challenges, and the principal one being balancing the economic benefits and interests of the people who own these signs with the public well-being and what people want in their public spaces. It can be tricky sometimes to identify safety risks. They're not always as obvious as it first seems. When you're thinking about putting a billboard up, it might have an impact that we don't necessarily see right away. And so it can be tricky to kind of identify that. It can also be tricky with zoning across various municipalities. It can be hard for advertisers in the industry in general to be compliant everywhere they go. I shouldn't say it's hard for them to be compliant. It makes it more of a challenge for them to be aware of what restrictions are there. And there are also some legal risks, some First Amendment challenges. I know that the city has spent a lot of time and money litigating with the owners of billboards in terms of like assessment and valuation. And so we would need to be careful with what we implement because there could be some legal pushback from the owners of signs. And then there's community opposition to the commercialization of public spaces. It's trying to capture that while at the same time not trampling on the rights of the people who own the signs.
Kathy, real quick, when you say the owners of the signage, are you talking are we saying the companies themselves, Clear Channel, Lamar, et cetera? Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes they're owned, the ownership of the sign, the Lamar and Clear Channel, those are the big ones that have the billboards, but any business could put up a sign to advertise itself for whatever purpose.
Okay. Yeah.
And clearly the reason they put them up is because they make money at it. They're not putting them up there just for fun. So,
well, yeah.
So these are just a couple examples of peer cities. Houston, they ban off-premise billboards, which means that let me take a step back. The city distinguishes between billboards that are off-premise and on-premise. And an on-premise sign is when a property owner puts up a billboard or a sign on their property. It advertises or is related to the business that takes, or to the activities that take place on that particular property. An on-premise billboard or a sign is one that advertises something that is not related to its physical location. And so Houston, for example, doesn't allow any off-premise billboards. Your billboard has to be advertising the activity that's occurring on that property. New Orleans has a 500-foot setback from residents and very strict brightness limits. Photo bans digital billboards. They also have buffer zones for regular billboards. Salt Lake City, they prohibit new or relocated billboards in designated gateway streets. So they kind of went through and they decided where they didn't want these. And Beaumont, Texas has a 300-foot setback from parks and residential areas. And this is not the entirety of what those municipalities do, but it kind of gives you a sense of what some cities are doing. And like I said earlier, no city actually does all of the best practice sort of things. They I think they regulate based on situations or issues that have come up in their particular location. So Milwaukee has a number of code sections that deal with billboards and outdoor signings. Chapter 244, signs and outdoor advertising, that is the chapter where it requires that it sets it tells you when you need a permit or not, but it doesn't tell you anything about the actual billboard itself. Chapter 222 regulates the electrical standards of billboards because clearly it's an electrical sign, so it needs to be up to code. It needs to be UL listed. It establishes all of those practical sort of things, but doesn't say anything at all about where it can be, how big it can be. It's just purely the electrical code part of it. Chapter 295, our zoning code, is where we regulate ATMSs. And we've got a fairly robust, we kind of come at it from a lot of different different directions. Let me see. Milwaukee differentiates between on-premise and off-premise, like I said. For off-premise signs, we prohibit flashing and intermittent lights, except for time and temperature, like signs you see on banks and stuff like that. The display can't change more than every 8 seconds. It can't be 400 feet of a residential district, or that it's visible from. You know, it can be closer if you're looking at the back of it. Let's see, what else? It can't have, oh, it has to be at least 1,000 feet apart when viewed from the same direction. They can't be too close together. We prohibit nuisance light on residential properties. We prohibit audio speakers and pyrotechnics. We have a lighting standard. It's 5,000 nits during the day, 500 at nights. And it also gives the commissioner the ability to order a sign turned off if it is creating a hazard. So like if something would malfunction or it would be doing something weird, the commissioner has the authority to go and order them to turn it off. Then there's like a 48-hour period where they're supposed to work with the owner. But if they can't get it resolved, the commissioner has the authority to prohibit them from using it. There is an appeal period, you know, there's the whole appeal thing, but I thought that was an interesting provision that we have that authority right off the bat to just say, you know, you got to turn it. And the other chapter I found that might be relevant is our parks and parkways, you know, because has a lot of the information about what we can do in our parks and parkways, but it does say anything about physical. Something that we could pursue.
And Kathy, really quick, it also said, I'm looking at on page 17 of your research, just quoting, it says that chapter 63 prohibits sales, solicitation for sale, and distribution of advertising without a permit.
Correct.
So that's already existing law just for general
Right.
advertising at a park or parkway.
Right. Yeah, you can't just go and set up, you know, do your little pop-up business in the park without a permit.
And this is where I just find that interesting because there are certain parks in Milwaukee where you're not allowed to, you know, do some kind of more general advertising, but this large billboard or digital billboard can be very visible from where your kids are on the swing set.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and it doesn't say anything, there's no language in there that would even addresses that. It doesn't permit it, it doesn't prohibit it, it's silent on it. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel. There are some things that we could do, but depending on what the committee wanted to advocate for. I mean, to my way of looking at it, our legislation is actually fairly robust, you know, but again, it doesn't address the whole bike trail park issue. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah,
This is incredibly thorough.
Kathy, on the final part, the final 2 pages of your document, page 18 and page 19, you have examples of proposed ordinance language, 4 different bullet points of, you know, possible language. Could you say more about the wording of these and how you came up with this language?
Let's see. Okay, let's take the prohibition on even in specific zone. The digital billboard shall not be permitted within a 500-foot buffer from any bike trail, greenway, or parkland designated as a recreational or natural area. The language there is designed to, honestly, it's designed to make it legal and enforceable. Your ordinance has to be specific enough that you can identify exactly what you're talking about. You know, so the fact that, you know, digital or illuminated billboards, those could be 2 different things. And you say that there shall not be permitted, that creates your prohibition. The 500-foot buffer, I just made that up. That was, you know, you can put in any number there that you want. You do have to be mindful of the context of where it is. In some areas, 500 feet makes sense. Others, it might not. I mean, 500 feet is like almost the long side of a typical city block. That's, you know, kind of the buffer zone that you would be talking about.
Yeah.
And then the bike trail, greenway, or parkland, those are things that you need to identify what the buffer is from. And those were just examples of what it could be. maybe you want to stay the Hank Aaron State Trail, maybe you want to name a specific park, maybe you want to. Did that answer your question? I'm not saying that this is exactly what it should say. If this is examples of things, components that a good ordinance would have.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting just kind of for anyone who's seen how these can work, right? Like, yeah, 500, even for me, 500 feet seems like a lot. And then you say a city block, oh, you know, like, I mean, I know once the leaves fall off the trees and I'm riding the Hank Aaron Trail at night, that one digital billboard that is visible just over like the freeway, like around 96th Street, and I think that's West Dallas at that point. Like I can see that for at least like 25 blocks. Like I'm even by like closer to like the Veterans Center, and I can see that little blinking, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and depending on how high, you know, the higher up it is, the further away you can see it from, you know, so there's.
Yeah.
But you raise a good point there, because that particular billboard might not even be in Milwaukee, so it wouldn't necessarily be covered.
Sure, but I mean, like, all we can do is all we can do
Right.
on our city level.
Monica asked if you'd be okay with sharing a PowerPoint after.
Yeah. Can you do that for me? It's like,
Just as long as you're okay with it.
yeah.
I mean, and I know this has kind of been one of my little things I've brought up before, so I'll just say to the group, kind of a twofold thing. I mean, for one, I guess maybe I'm in the minority sometimes, but like, I know that I don't like going into a tavern or restaurant and seeing 20 TVs all surrounding me at all times. I mean, I get it if there's a Packer game on or whatever Brewers game, but like otherwise, I am someone who can't turn away, and I think when I talk to people, they feel the same way a lot of times. And I know when I go outside, especially, I mean, yeah, my bike is my car, but when I'm also like on a trail, we always hear about, yeah, you know, turn off your phone, get outside more. And especially during an election season, Lord have mercy, when you have these around, it's really hard to go to a park for a lot of the reasons that we go to a park, which is sometimes just to unwind and to relax. And it's, you know, feeling more and more like we can't escape the TVs, we can't escape the glowing rectangles. So in terms of a quality of life, just in our green spaces, including our bike trails and pedestrian trails, that's an issue near and dear to me. But then also, yes, in terms of like, well, we are a safety advocacy group as well. And I'm thinking of even like on 25th and Canal, where there are now 2 digital billboards that are right at that crossing where we just worked really hard to install more signage at that roundabout, that there's a trail crossing, because that can still be quite a dangerous crossing. And, you know, I do not have data in front of me, but to me, it just seems like a common sense thing of where you can see right at that intersection so many distractions. And then you also have a little sign that says trail crossing, right, as people might be like seeing these other big screens that are frankly, you know, designed to grab your attention. These are kind of the issues that I'm considering through so much of this, is of what can be done. But yeah, I want to turn over to the rest of the group. What are their questions? What excites them? What do they think is possible? What should we go for?
I mean, I would be curious if there are any alders that are interested in this, because like, I mean, I think it would be great to reduce the amount of advertising and billboards, especially around trails and parks. I'd be curious kind of what, if any, would support kind of moving something, because I would guess it would be easier to kind of reduce the restrictions that already exist rather than create new ones. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, as part of my research, I have not reached out to any of the alders to see if they would be supportive. I mean, just kind of thinking in my head, I think there are a couple that would probably be supportive and would be willing to sponsor ordinance changes that would do some of these sorts of things.
Mhm.
But I haven't reached out to any of them. I haven't spoken to any of them about it. And I think part of it is going to be looking at whatever restriction or whatever changes we want to make, looking at how they're going to affect billboards that already exist. Because that's going to be the biggest, the biggest challenge is making sure that you're not, that you're not creating an unnecessary conflict.
Mhm.
Yeah, hi, this is Monica from Department of City Development. And there's others in my department who are more experts in signage, but I would echo the point that you just made about, billboard companies, they own property, they have property rights, there's free speech rights. This is often a delicate area when we're evaluating various signage requests. So and especially if they're, it's an existing sign. Everything, that has been approved, typically has to meet some fairly robust standards that were discussed. And whether we want to change them or not, I think is like a very good question to discuss. But yeah, it's an area that I can maybe bring to my colleague to see. And I'd be happy to coordinate.
Yeah, Monica, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And it's also like, I mean, yeah, what can be the lowest hanging fruit, at least, to move things forward? Some part of your research that I kind of got, Kathy, was that even the industry groups have at least, publicly said that they are, they would appreciate more consistent language just from everybody on knowing where they stand and what to do. And what could be at least what could start with a win-win, or yeah.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised in how supportive the industry seems to be of reasonable regulations, whatever reasonable is.
Mhm, right.
But they do. I think they're starting to recognize that there is a much bigger public pushback. People are starting to recognize the value of green spaces and the dangerous, the wrong word there, but the harm from the constant bombardment of electronic messaging. And so, I mean, if the city did want to move forward with something like that, there's a ton of research that shows that protecting green spaces, protecting people's ability to disconnect it's good for physical health, it's good for mental health. I mean, there's a ton of research that supports that. So, so I think the city would be on a fairly solid footing to try to move in that direction. But again, recognizing that there are a lot of property and First Amendment rights, and again, the city has gotten into trouble in the past trying to, with some of their billboard, the things that they've done with billboards. So, I mean, and that would be something I would defer to the city attorney on, in terms of whatever that litigation history, how that would inform some of what we might want to do. And I didn't really pursue that, because I didn't have any specific things to say to the city attorney, like, hey, how would this, I didn't want to ask a question that was too open-ended, because that's not fair to them, really.
I think in some of the examples you highlighted, a lot of language was around new billboards, which would still be a win. Like, even if we say the old stuff is grandfathered in, much as we might not like it, even preventing more from going up would be great, and potentially less thorny, because you're not pulling out the rug from somebody who's already had this established.
And right now, if someone has a billboard and they want to convert it to a digital billboard, they have to get a special use permit. So it goes through that whole process. And I don't know if this is something that we can really get at, because part of the issue is that those permits can go through and not a lot of people know about them.
Right.
Because the notice requirements are pretty narrow. It's the property owner and it's the properties within, I think, like 250 feet of that.
Ooh, okay.
And they can schedule it. I want to say once they get the permit, I think it's like they can do the public hearing within 7 days, or they have to do it within 30. There's a fairly small window in which we have to act on it. We can't just hold it forever. Someone applies for a permit. And so it's a kind of a tight timeline if you're trying to stay abreast of those sorts of things. So I don't know, I mean, that would maybe be a question for DCD, like, is there some way to modify those, the notice requirements, or just create a channel with DCD where maybe they would proactively notify groups or something?
That would be something, yeah, Monica, anyone else from DCD, like that would be, I mean, I can say for me, because I do the Hank Aaron Trail pretty much every day. And I ride into Menominee Valley every day, and I live further than that many feet from the trail. But I mean, man, would I like to, get a notice in the mail of like, if as someone who uses that daily, but also even like the Menominee Valley, and how anyone who goes there knows that at night this time of year, you have like literally hundreds of kids and families who are playing soccer. And there's already like 3 or 4 like just static billboards up there. But, that would be something where, I know we can't always reach everybody, but how do the families who use that at least once a week? I don't know, like how can they get that input as well, given all the restrictions and limitations? Yeah, this is a trickier issue, I know, because parks can be something where you go to it even if you're not like nearby.
Yeah, and the city has no mechanism for broad notification like that, at least not as part of the special use permit ordinance.
Yeah, currently, if you're interested in, knowing what the BOZA agenda is, you can sign up on eNotify. They email out the agenda, before the meeting. So, and then there are notices, as you mentioned, not a very wide radius, but, to property owners within, I believe it's 200 feet, but don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it is. But you can, anyone can sign up for the eNotify to know what's on the agenda every single time it meets.
How does one do that, Monica? I think that was Monica, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, Monica from DCD. I'll put something in the chat. I'll put a link.
Okay.
Kathleen, you had your hand up briefly. Did you have a comment?
Oh, I guess I just wanted to note, I know, I guess I haven't noticed it that much with billboards, but in general, like flashing lights and bright lighting, I know, like, give me migraines. It could other people who have sensory sensitivities. So this kind of thing is important to me, that we consider brightness, that we consider flashing, because of not only safety and being out in the parks, but also to consider those with who have some sensory sensitivity.
Sure. Maybe even Kelvin rating, when you see like how bright those, I'm looking at you, vape shops, sorry, but like how bright those lights could be, how white. Yeah.
And to be honest, when I reviewed the code, I didn't look to see like how we came up with our lighting standards, the 5,000 units for, I didn't look at the legislative history or go back and do anything to say why we decided that that's what it should be. I mean, so that could be something that we look at and say, is that number still appropriate?
This is Paul from Milwaukee Rec again, and I'm putting on another hat. I also work with the Community Bike Club program. And by the end of this year, we'll have taken 500 bike rides through our program around the city. So we see a lot out there on the trails because we repeat our pathways often. A lot of our staff come back and boy, it's just that could just change this or that. The low-hanging fruit, I think, I'd like to make a connection with the first presentation from Jessica. Is we need to look at our most dangerous intersections. How many bright advertisements do they have on those that are distracting? You're on the Lack and 35th, or at Potawatomi down there, we're a bike trail in a circle. Maybe there's a standard that needs to be set on the busiest intersection, the intersection with the most accidents. How much advertising you get there? Because if you're looking at it's a busy and dangerous intersection. So that's common sense. And as you start expanding your separated bike lanes, they're going to be going through some of the intersections like Fond du Lac And Liz went, whoa, no, that is a really complicated street to get across with bike racks. Because there's a freeway entrance, it's getting downtown, it's 11th Street, it's 12th Street. I mean, that's quite the challenge. But it's still there for children. Well, you know, take a look at your most dangerous advertising. That might do something also, because that's fine.
And I'm not dismissing that as a comment, but what I will say is that when you're on streets like Fond du Lac, a lot of the signage that you're seeing is considered on premise. And so there's people have different rights and different things because they're advertising for their business right there. And so it is very challenging. We know that it's a problem, but it's challenging to address because the property owners have rights. And so it's, again, trying to balance that.
Sure.
Monica Locksmith shared some info about how to sign up for e-notifies. And also just so everyone's aware, it's 10:05. And we do have several more items on the agenda.
Sorry.
Appreciate the reminder. I guess, is there anything we want to do for next steps for this? It sounded like Monica and DCD are worth talking to, and perhaps reaching out to some of the alders or one of the alders that would be interested in exploring potential changes here.
Well, Kathy and Monica or anyone else chime in too, but like I know Kathy in an email to us, you had said that we, PBAC, could propose a resolution directing the appropriate departments to develop a plan, or the committee, like our policies, et cetera, could develop a digital billboard strategy that could take to the council for approval, which we'd work out with DCD. So I don't know if there's any other options people that Kathy you want to add to, but like those seem like the two options to pursue. I guess the question is what would be most appropriate. And Monica, I imagine you're probably the best one to weigh in on that.
Yeah, no, I want to talk to some of my colleagues about this. But I could maybe set up a meeting. Yeah, if you shoot me an email, I can my email's in the chat. Send me an email and we can maybe try to set up a meeting. And I want to involve some of my colleagues.
Sounds great. Would anyone else like to be a part of that meeting? Anna? Okay. And perhaps people are raising their hands on the site, but we just have the PowerPoint up there. Okay.
That I see at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, so Monica, Anna, and I can be in touch with you and see where we go from there. But thank you. Thank you again, Kathy. This is it's just really great to have the information,
Yeah, appreciate the deep, robust research here.
Yeah, well, but
That's a good reason.
yeah, worth the wait.
Sorry about that.
Is there any final comments or questions on that? If not, thank you again, Kathy.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
And we can go on to our next item, which is work groups. I know for targeted improvements, there have been some conversations around the mobile app. Barry, did you get a
I
chance to
can
meet with
speak
them?
briefly on that. And Mike, if you're still there, maybe you might want to, actually, Mike, do you want to give any update on the meeting we had about the city mobile app? Is there anything pending that you could discuss?
Yeah, why don't you give an update on the meeting and then I'll provide further update on conversations internally.
Mike, I apologize. Who again did we meet with?
We met with a couple folks from ITMD.
Thank you.
What is her name?
Well, she was very helpful and friendly and knowledgeable and all, but well, anyway, yes, we met about the mobile app, and it was regarding, as we know, PBAC had sent a letter of possible recommendations. The lowest hanging fruit, to again use that metaphor or figure of speech, is something on, or to have something on the app about more easily replacing broken bollards, excuse me. So on these protected bike lanes, we can often see the plastic bollards now that, might get just destroyed and cast aside, and how that could be something that could be more easily put on the city app for anyone to request a new one, because that's also kind of an easy, quick fix. I know, Mike, we had talked about, it was, there was still a question of, I think not just PBAC types, but for everyone, they might appreciate a better way to submit a request using the city app that didn't have to involve a concrete address, but that still doesn't seem to be possible at the moment. I know we had left out you had asked about what MPD uses when they have to list something that may or may not have an address. I know there was a talk about getting back to you on that, Mike. And those were the main approaches of what to move from there. I know there was still regarding requests for removal of debris and such. There was concerns about or there was resistance to that because the city already has a current schedule for street sweeping and cleaning, and how that could complicate already a stretched thin program. Is there anything I missed there, Mike, on our main topics?
No, thank you. And we met with Anne Elizabeth from ITMD, who's fantastic and oversees the mobile app. I think a few things came. So in the letter itself, I think you touched on them all, but the recommendations were, and I know these were just initial ideas, reporting faded bike lane paints, reporting broken glass or debris in bike lanes, reporting broken or missing flexible delineators on protected bike lanes, and then reporting blocking of the bike lane. A few things. One, so internally at DPW, we've had a conversation. Some of these items, the bike lane, faded bike lane painting, and broken glass or debris. So those are schedule-based initiatives or efforts that we do. So, I think the challenge there is if something gets reported on, the south side of the city and the schedule for repainting is on the north side of the city, that there's concerns there with kind of pulling folks from already scheduled work. So I think really what the intent of the mobile app is more kind of service-based, so items that aren't kind of on a regular schedule. One item that I think there is opportunity is the broken delineators, which is actually already in the mobile app. But I think there's, various delineator types now out there that we can do a better job of identifying, what the actual issue is. We also talked about, I think that option needs to be more easily findable. It's kind of buried in the app. So that's something that we're working on internally. And then the other theme that I think came out of the conversation with ITMD, and then also internally, and this kind of relates to the blocking of the bike lane, but also kind of the faded bike lane paint, is the mobile app isn't intended to serve as kind of a an asset, tracking or inventory app, right? We all think there's value in having something like that. So knowing where there's frequent occurrences of people blocking bike lanes, or knowing where there's, issues of faded paint, those, if reported in the app today, wouldn't be addressed immediately. Or if, for example, the parking in the bike lane issue, very high likelihood of by the time somebody gets out there, the person would be gone. So we did have some good conversations, and I think this will take some time, but I think there's value in considering something that is more kind of used as a planning tool and kind of an asset tracking inventory tool to identify proactively where to deploy resources or efforts going forward. That would likely be something different from the mobile app, however.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just like what you said about the streamlining it, and I know that even a previous PBAC meeting, I think about last year sometime, there was a discussion on how to request like, an extra street sweeping if there's a lot of glass or debris. And I learned that myself and was writing it down. Like, oh, okay, we go to that part of the app, or we, mention this in this language if we call the city. So, like what you said earlier, I know we touched on of if there is, even if it's already on the city app, if there is some kind of, we pull it up, it's, bike issues, and then it just maybe redirect us as we, click on things. But I think that would really be great for a lot of cyclists. Is this something that we want to, I'm getting ahead of maybe this, but is this something we want to schedule an update on a upcoming meeting? Or is it a wait and see kind of thing?
I would defer to you all.
Yeah, I think whatever you think, Barry.
I mean, we can put it like on next month's meeting, unless it feels like there's no updates to give, like just kind of put on the tentative schedule. Is that cool?
Sure. I can make a note of it. Was there anything else that we wanted to discuss on that, or I guess for targeted improvements in general? If not, oh,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I think we're good. Ben has some ideas, but we'll wait till he's here.
Cool. Did the projects work group get a chance to meet? Like Ben and Anna.
Anna just had to leave.
Okay, we can that. I guess since we don't have either of them, we can skip. Policies is Anna, who's also not here, and Aaron, who's also not here.
One part of that group now too.
Oh,
so we haven't met. No, we have not met. I think right now the billboard legislation is what is kind of what's on our docket. Is that the right word? Our list. Yeah.
sorry, what policy was that?
Oh, just discussing for policies work group, like right now, the billboard discussion.
Oh, yes, yeah. I think that makes a ton of sense.
Take it easy. Thanks for coming.
So that concludes most our usual agenda items. Is there any for new business? I made a note of the Fond du Lac project to have somebody from DW speak when they're further along or prepared. I made a note about the mobile app, and I'll make a note about the billboards. Is there anything else we want to make note of for discussing next month?
Jessica, while you're here, do you think there will be anything in a month we want to use the term circle back on with the proposed Safe Road Save Lives Act? Not necessarily with you having to be here, but just any.
Yeah, no, hopefully in the next month, the hearing would have just happened and we could kind of talk about what the public sentiment and probably it'll be even more in the media and in the public conversation. And it could be interesting to think about if this group has other thoughts about it. And there's a chance the hearing won't have happened and we could actually kind of talk about testimony in that process if it hasn't.
Yeah, that sounds great. If it hasn't happened by then, we can definitely put something together or get the word out even. Cool. So I guess
that's pretty stacked, potentially.
Yeah, I think that's sufficient new business. Though obviously if anything comes up, we can always put it on the agenda. But I think we can move to events and announcements. So if anybody has anything to share, events, public meetings, or otherwise, now is the time to speak up.
I usually offer compliments here, so maybe events, announcements, and shout outs, kudos. But I do want to just as a compliment everyone at DPW for with the work regarding 17th Street, 17th between Walnut and Highland. For those who know this, I work for 19 years now. I've worked at Highland Community School, which is located at 17th and Highland. And we often on the warmer days try to walk to King Park. I have taken students there several times myself, and it is a harrowing experience, whether we walk on Juno or on Highland. And just the, there were some, I know, concerns some of our administrators had and just some of our staff had about the construction as it's been happening. And I know just from firsthand, like hearing about it, just how professional DPW has been with meeting, going the extra mile to meet with people, hear them out, and just help us navigate the project as we're trying to still work with our after school pickup and things like that, because we don't have busing at our school. So just again, a compliment I want to share on behalf of just my own experiences with how personally excited I am about this project, and also how I just really appreciate DPW working hard to get everyone still make sure everyone is on board with it or feeling heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael?
I'll follow Barry's suit here and shout out DPW on doing a good job communicating the data that's coming in from their traffic calming projects. I think we're really turning a tide where the community is starting to see the benefits of it and not just as an impediment. So that's anecdotal from watching like laugh reacts on Facebook. But I really do think that it's hitting home, and the way you're communicating it, people are getting it. And then announcements, really exciting. I have been studying this year in the process of becoming a League of American Cyclists coach, and we are leading our first instructor seminar next weekend, including one candidate from the Vision Zero department. So building up our network of people that are ready to lead bike education across the city. So we've got 11 candidates, so we'll have not all in Milwaukee, but a lot of new bike leaders coming up next week.
Awesome. I guess I can share as there is every month. Critical Mass bike ride this month, September 26th, leaving from Red Arrow Park at 6 p.m. Casual, slower, no drop ride. If you're interested in just biking with your friends, it's a great opportunity. Any other events or announcements?
Yeah, I think there's a Strong Towns parking day celebrated tomorrow at Brady and Franklin. So they transform a parking spot into like a public space. And if anybody wants to stop by, that's September 20th for between 10 and 4.
Great. I didn't know that was coming up. Are there any?
Go
ahead.
It's also the Chris Kegel slow roll this weekend. So if people are looking for other things to get active, are that fund bike charities. That event is happening tomorrow.
Are there any DPW meetings coming up? There's a beer line one today. Is that right?
Yep, there's a beer line event today. It's called like music on the beer line, I believe, and Zach will be there from DPW. We are also kind of in the process of officially launching 4 and 4 in Motion, the city's mobility plan. So there's a survey live on our webpage. We'll be putting out a press release and some email notifications either today or Monday. I'll put a link in the chat to the page where you can find the survey. So please share that widely.
I want to say I saw other ones, or I guess maybe this is WisDOT stuff for Prospect, Appleton, and Appleton. I guess those are two different ones. Does anybody from DPW know about those?
I do know that I don't know the dates, but yes, there are. There you go. Dropped in the chat. Wednesday, 9/24. The WisDOT Connecting Highways team is leading an open house on the Prospect and Farwell reconstruction projects.
Awesome. Any other events or announcements? If not, I would hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a
I
motion
second
from
it.
Motion from Barry and a second from Kathleen. Thank you all for attending, and to our presenters, and for Marissa for staffing the meeting, and DPW for all of their help, as always.
Mhm.
Have a great
Thanks,
weekend,
everybody.
everybody. See you.
Marissa, could you